Welcome you guys, welcome to the principle of gender, which is the last but certainly not least principle of the Hermetic philosophy of the 7 pillars of existence. Principle of gender says that everything that exists will manifest itself both masculine and feminine energies. Now what is most important is balancing mental gender. Maybe I shouldn't use that word. When I say mental gender, I don't mean what gender you associate yourself with, man, woman, or the variations of things in between that. That's not at all what I mean. What I mean is that in our minds, where creation is most powerful and is original, in our minds we have both masculine and feminine. Now, the masculine puts out an impulse. It's very projecting. It's very concise, straight to the point. It doesn't have much variation. It doesn't have much variation, but the reason why is because it's concise. It's small. It just contains information. Now, the feminine side its role is receiving that input. It receives an input and then it creates, and we see that beautifully on the physical plane with man and woman. A man has a seed which he impregnates the woman with. The woman takes that seed, that information, and it breeds new life. So the feminine energy is vast and it's untapped, and it almost has this wild, untamed, and to me it feels closer to oneness than masculine does, because it's almost pure potential. The feminine can be anything. The feminine can be anything but it needs the help of the masculine, but it itself can transform into anything. The masculine can't do that. The masculine is one piece of information. It is always that piece of information, and it's thrusting itself out into the world. Now, with that being said, the reason why it is important for mastery over these 2 parts of you, your masculine and feminine, is because by letting one dominate the other, we can't get anywhere in life. It's like taking 1 step forward and 1 step back. See, if you're dominated by passiveness, by feminine, you become too passive. Minds that are dominated with the feminine are prone to too much introspection, too much thoughts, no movement, no action, all receiving, no giving. And without going too far into it, because I haven't wrapped my mind around this at all, but I believe that a lot of the problems we see in today's world is people being far too passive, taking far too little action. So what I see in today's world, why everything is so bad, is that we have an extremely unhealthy masculine in charge and an extremely unhealthy feminine taking orders. Now, 99% of the people who are taking orders and are rolling over and who are being dictated instead of dictating, who are taking orders instead of giving orders, who are never having original thoughts of their own, they're only taking thoughts of others. That's the majority of what we see in the world. That's feminine. And the reason why I say that is, take the example for wars. We've done studies where we ask people, do you believe in the war? Do you believe that fighting, that killing each other is the best way to solve our problems? And the answer is, go figure, no. No one wants bombs dropped in their backyard. No one wants to send their kids off to war to get killed and maimed and coming back a shell of their former person. No one wants to cause that to other people. No one wants to drop nuclear bombs on a city that's going to kill women and children and people who have nothing to do with the war and just want to survive. People don't want to kill each other. Generally speaking, people want to be happy, and they want others to be happy as well. Yet, why are we still going to war? If the majority of people don't want to be at war, yet we find ourselves at war, what's happening? What's happening is most people are dominated by the feminine, in that they're constantly taking in orders and they're never reflecting, they're never giving them out of their own. Now, this is not man-woman. This is where it gets tricky. This is where I'm always misunderstood in this. It's not about man and woman. It's about energies. Because when a woman steps into a role and she says, this is what I want and this is how it's going to be, and she sets up boundaries, and she neglects everything that doesn't meet that criteria, she's acting in her masculine. That's what she's doing. And when a man is receptive, and when a man shuts up and listens and is open to all ideas, and is open to the idea that he can include things from other places, and he's being creative, and he's being very ambiguous with his thoughts so that he can be open to everything, he's acting from his feminine. So again, masculine and feminine is not about sex. Sex is the lowest, it is the most useless form of the principle of gender. The most important form of the principle of gender, again, comes from the mind, comes from controlling your mental gender and integrating both your masculine and feminine into one person to create the whole. That's the healthiest person. The healthiest person is the person that can utilize their feminine when they need to, and can utilize their masculine when they need to. This is how we create things. Without the feminine, the masculine dominates and acts out without restraint, without order, without any care or compassion for anything outside of itself. That is a masculine-driven mindset. And a feminine-driven mindset is one that is prone to self-reflection and actually never does anything, period. It lets things happen. So what does that mean? How do we use that? What I want you guys to avoid from here on out, so that you don't get caught in the trap of being too feminine or too masculine, or having an imbalance, is stop going with the flow of life. First and foremost, this is what I want you guys. Most people believe, especially in the spiritual community, I hear this idea of just go with the flow, just go with the flow. Just let life happen. Everything happens for a reason, just wait. No. Do not just wait. Do not just go with the flow. Ever. I'm sorry. Backtrack. Not ever. Here's what we do. Going with the flow is passive, it's feminine. So that's a good thing. However, you doing this the right way is first utilizing the masculine to set the intention of the flow. You use your masculine to dictate what you want. You write it down. I want to make $100,000 over the next 12 months. This is what I want. Bullet number 1, this is how I'm going to do it. Bullet number 2, this is how I'm going to do it. Bullet number 3, this is how I'm going to follow through to make sure it happens. Concise, projecting, linear, logical, masculine. This is what I want. This is how I'm going to get it. I'm not going to do any of these other things until this happens. That's masculine. Feminine. Then you let it go. Then you let it unfold. You don't attach to expectations. You don't create things that aren't there. You don't worry so much. Worrying is a negative emotion. Fear is a negative emotion. Dwell on negativity, dwell on fear, you become more dense. Your ability to attract things, your ability to resonate with things becomes hindered. So when I tell you, don't just go with the flow, I mean don't just go with anyone's flow, because that's what's happening in the world right now. Everyone's going with every flow that they come across, and we wonder why sometimes we get what we want and sometimes we get what we don't want. That's because we're constantly telling ourselves, just go with the flow, just don't worry about it. The universe has a plan and it's all working out and everything happens for a reason. And yes, everything happens for a reason, but sometimes the reason is because you didn't decide to make anything happen, so it had things happen for you, and that's exactly what's happening. So don't go with the flow. Use your masculine mind. Use your masculine mind to set the flow. Create the river and then lay in it and then go with the flow and then let it all to the universe. But if you don't tell the universe what you want in the first place, the universe is just going to start throwing random things at you. Oh, you're hanging out with this crowd? I'm going to throw you things that relate to this crowd. Oh, you're studying this text. Okay, well, I'm going to start throwing you stuff that resonates with that text. Oh, you have this mindset. Okay, I'm going to start throwing you things with this mindset. And then you hang out with a different group, and then you read a different book, and then you have a different philosophy, and the universe goes, okay, his frequency is changing. Now I have to start evoking things in his world that match the new frequency. So if you're constantly changing and you're constantly going with the flow of this guy, constantly going with the flow from that movie, constantly going with the flow from a past circumstance that happened, if you're constantly going with the flows of all these different things, you're just going to get all kinds of different things that pop up into your life. It's not concise. It's not clear. It's not linear. And it's not limited. These are all masculine traits. It's very precise. It's very small. It's right here. You can see it, right? That's the beauty of the masculine. It's rigid. It's firm, it's unwavering, which is a beautiful thing when it's used correctly and it's used for a goal. Because what do we want when we want a goal? We want it done, and we want it done seamlessly. But that can only happen when we have very strict guidelines for how that's going to happen. And it can only have strict guidelines if we set them. So set them first. And then go with the flow. And then use your feminine side, which is very creative, which doesn't have rigidity at all. It's fluid. Feminine is very fluid. And it's vast. The container for the feminine energy is not constrained. It's not concise. It's not linear. It's not logical. Because to be creative, you can't be logical. To create something new, you have to create something new. And to actually have a thought that no one's ever thought before is really unfathomable. Literally. Because no one's ever thought of it before. So you can't have constraint when it comes to creativity. You can't have logics when it comes to creativity. You can't... none of that works. So when you utilize your feminine, that's what it's for. It's for tapping into that subconscious, that unconscious realm that's just pure potential, and it's vast and it's overwhelming, and it is so powerful. You guys, the feminine energy to me is so much more powerful than the masculine 9 times out of 10. I've used this example before with the rider and the elephant. The rider is the concise one. The person on top of the elephant directing the elephant, that's to me the masculine. Saying, go that way, go this way, tear down that tree, pull up that root. And the elephant is just this powerful, raw, just energy that is wild, but can be tamed at times to do what we want it to do. And when that happens, we are so powerful, you guys. When we can combine the precision and the rigidity of the masculine, and we can use that precision and rigidity to direct the feminine, we are an unstoppable force. There is nothing in this world that will stop you from doing what you want to do when you combine the power of the masculine with the power of the feminine. And this is one of the most incredible laws in the law of Hermetics, in this Hermetic philosophy. So yes, to recap, don't be dominated by feminine, because if you do, you will live someone else's life, basically. Don't be dominated by masculine, because if you do, you'll just be a total dickhead, and you'll have no compassion. You'll have no care for anything that happens outside of you. Your creativity will be shunned. Your access to pure potential is shattered. Use them both together. Find it in yourself. And here's how you can easily do it. Again, as a recap, set your own flows. If you set your own flow, your own course, and then go with it, and then relinquish. This is how we do both things. This is the yin and yang. This is how you go with the flow. You create your flow, and then you go with it. Using the masculine to create, and then using the feminine to go with the flow. There is a power behind relinquishing expectations. There is a power that comes from peace, that comes from serenity. Go figure. Forcing things to make them happen, forcing them things to make them happen is an unhealthy way of using the masculine to get what you want. And the reason why is because forcing things brings up emotions and it brings up energies, and these emotions and energies come with frequencies, and these frequencies begin to resonate with their matching frequencies in the external world. So forcing something to happen says that you're scared, says that I don't think this is going to work unless I force it to work. And if you're showing fear, and if you're showing, what's the better word, lack, then you're saying, then you're emitting fear and lack as a frequency, and then lack starts to show in your life. And then you get more scared. You cling to it more. You cling to the expectation more. You try to force it even more, and it just becomes this spiral. So earlier I said that don't go with the flow, and I came in kind of hot. That's not all what I meant. What angers and upsets me is that people go with just any old flow. And that's exactly what I'm trying to get away from. Don't go with any old flow. Go with your flow. Your flow. We can go with other people's flows too, but just make sure you know whose they are. Look at someone. Is that the type of flow I want to join? Because sometimes it's nice to not have to create anything for ourselves. We can just go and pick someone else's stream. That stream looks nice. Like, you guys ever seen Jungle Book, The Bare Necessities? Baloo has a flow. He eats bananas, he scratches his back on trees, looks under rocks, eats ants, and floats down the river all day and sings music. That sounds like a beautiful flow. He's got it dialed in. It'd be nice to just jump in that river and flow with him. It's wonderful. You don't have to do any work. It's already set up. Just hang out with Baloo. You got it made. Until one day you're going to go, I don't like this anymore. You know, you might say, this is repetitive, it's not me, it's not fulfilling, I'm not actually growing as a human. And right now, while this other flow was wonderful, it was great, I appreciate it, it showed me, it taught me, I was able to grow from it, but now it's time to do my own thing. Now it's time to create my own flow and then lay in that river. And my river is going to look a lot different than this one. And that's what life is about. Life is about creating the river and then laying in it. Creating the river and laying in it. It's kind of like the law of cause and effect. Plant a seed and that seed's going to grow every single time. You will never plant a sunflower seed and grow a watermelon. It's plain and simple. It's not even spiritual. It's just a fact. That's science at that point. You're going to plant a seed and that seed's going to grow. You're going to create your own river and that river's going to flow. Make a good river is all I can say. And do it simply. You know, for me, when I utilize my masculine self as compared to my feminine self, I tend to be on the more feminine side. Just self-reflecting over the years, I tend to be more on the go with the flow side, more on the passive side, more of the allowing other people to dictate my going on, my goings on in my life. Because I'm always asking people, what do you think for this? What do you think about that? Should I do this? Should I do that? You know, never coming into the world of my own volition. And while that works really well, I'm able to take in a lot of knowledge. I'm able to, you know, get along with a lot of people because I can integrate so many different things. My creativity is off the charts, all these wonderful things. That helps me, and it's helped in the past. But now I need to step into the masculine. Now I need to step into a different phase, and I have been, and creating my own rivers, my own streams, and I'm flowing like I never have been before because I'm good at flowing, and now I'm dominating the creation process, and it's been beautiful, and it's going to be beautiful for you guys too. Thanks for being here. I hope you enjoyed the video series. I'm going to have more things for you. Reach out, let me know what you thought. This is my first, so they're going to be getting better, more precise, more what you guys want. And thank you guys. Thank you so much. I'll see you really soon. Welcome home.